Hobsliding is a difficult technique to learn, and there are many small details attached to it that are nearly impossible to notice just by watching gameplay. In this video we will go over some essential things that will help you understand the ins and outs of hobsliding and hopefully answer your questions regarding certain situations. If you don't know how to hobslide yet, I highly recommend checking out my beginner tutorial, which will get you started as easily and quickly as possible. Utilizing scenery is a common way to start a hobslide since it gives you the elevation needed to land sooner and begin hobsliding. However, sometimes the scenery is too high and you won't get the extra speed you are looking for. A perfect example is in Crash Crush, where you start a hopslide from this rock on the left side. Many people fail this or avoid it altogether because they don't know how it actually works. The key is to not leave the rock immediately. Since the rock is much higher than the ground, you must be spinning when you start falling. The trick is to slide toward the wall for a fraction of a second, then hold down again. If you leave the rock in a slide animation, you will get a flat spin and lose the hopslide. Spinning while falling is the key whenever your hopslide breaks midair. Hopsliding is quite a bit faster than normal slide spinning, and getting used to it and being able to control your character takes time. One small tip is that making micro adjustments is much easier during the spin animation. While it is possible to change direction during a slide, it's much harder to control and you can easily overshoot. The spin animation works differently and lets you move sideways more precisely. You turn more slowly while spinning, which makes fine adjustments far more manageable. Because of this, I recommend doing your precise movements during the spin animation whenever possible. This makes sections like these much easier to get through. Hole skips are commonly used to keep hopslides going for longer. Most of them are straightforward, but some are extremely inconsistent. The key to clearing these inconsistent holes is proper hopslide spacing. These hole skips usually fail if you change your state while crossing them. For example, in this clip Crash begins a slide on top of the hole and falls in. In the next example, he spins the whole time and makes it over. By spacing your movement so that you are either sliding or spinning when crossing the hole, you can make it consistent. However, some hole skips are more mysterious, like this one in Snow Go. With these holes, the strategy mentioned earlier doesn't apply. For this skip, you basically need to be somewhere in the middle of the spin animation for it to work. Very confusing, I know, I'm trying to make this game make sense. Consistency can be improved through visual cues, setups, or by learning a specific movement pattern that lines up your action directly over the hole. It's also important to pay attention to your analog stick angle when hole skipping. If you hold the stick too aggressively toward the wall, you will lose forward speed and won't make it across. But if you don't hold toward the wall at all, you will likely fall into the pit because you are not using the maximum amount of ground available around the hole. For hole skips like the ones in Crash Crush or Unbearable, I recommend using setups and specific movement patterns, while for hole skips like the one in Snow Go, I recommend visual cues and setups. Practicing and standardizing your movement will greatly increase your success rate. Find one method that works for you and build muscle memory to execute it the exact same way every time. Next, let's talk about dip hops, which are definitely a big step up in difficulty. Starting a hopslide is possible even without elevation from scenery or terrain changes. By dipping into death pits, you can create the needed elevation yourself. The difficulty and risk depend entirely on the specific pit because the death planes are placed differently in every one of them. However, dip hops are possible in every pit in the game, and most of them are surprisingly forgiving. Starting a dip hop requires fast spin and jump inputs because you need to land while spinning, and pressing the inputs close together gives you a longer spin animation in the air. You also need to keep the jump input held as little time as possible so the jump stays low and you land sooner. You might think you just need to slide off the ledge and press spin and jump, and sometimes that works, but in most cases it doesn't. What most people don't know is that you should start your slide farther away. This may seem counterintuitive, but many pits are too narrow and hitting the far edge won't let you jump anymore. Another benefit is that spreading out the inputs makes it easier to hit them correctly. I personally always let the slide animation play for a moment, and this has greatly reduced the times where I get extra height on my jumps. While we don't know for certain why this extra height happens, the leading theory is that the game sometimes registers spin and jump on the same frame, causing a glitch high similar to pressing both buttons simultaneously. This is more of a general tip and doesn't only apply to dips, but in my experience it's good practice to always start hopslides with the same input rhythm. This builds consistency for both hop sliding and dipping, and it also makes inputs easier to perform. By learning to start every hop slide the same way, whether it's a dip or a normal hop slide, you don't have to think about doing anything differently when going for a dip hop. Of course, in some situations you have no choice but to use fast inputs or the hop slide won't work, but there should never be a scenario where you need to perform all the inputs in a quick succession specifically for dip hops. For timing the spin jump combo, you should aim for the end of the slide animation. In my experience, by this point crash has usually fallen far enough for the hop slide to trigger. Here is also a sound cue for the rhythm I use when starting a hop slide, whether it's a regular one or a dip. The newest hop slide technique is starting them using boxes. I found this completely by accident while practicing digging it time trials. In this section dip hops were nearly impossible because the depth playing is extremely high, making this the worst bit in the game. Because this section is quite long, I had to find a way to hop slide through it, and I randomly thought, why can't we start a hop slide off boxes? They are basically the perfect height. I happened to land in the perfect spot almost immediately, and a new hop slide variation was born. The key is landing on the edge of the box because for some reason the edges are solid. Boxes also tend to behave more solidly if you start sliding while already touching them, so this might be related. Box hops are fairly precise, but with a good setup they are very consistent. For example, this dip hop has roughly a 5% success rate, while the box hop is closer to 50%, making it much more practical if you normalize your movement. Interestingly, this is one of the few sections where this tech is actually useful, but Crash 3 has a few places where it can shine. In Crash 3, you can find 4 boxes placed on the ground like this. Starting a box hop with these is incredibly easy because the hitbox area where it works is so large. The game also has more sections where starting a hop slide is difficult, but boxes placed on the ground can help with that. Keep in mind, you can't start a box hop using checkpoint boxes or box stacks, those cause a body slam. Box stacks can be used if you have triple mask, but that's unrelated because triple mask allows you to stand on boxes briefly. Those are just regular hop slides. Most people don't know this, but hop slide speed varies a lot. Your speed depends on how quickly you press the inputs. Optimizing hop slide speed is tricky because pressing the buttons too quickly breaks the hop slide. You might wonder how big the difference could possibly be since hop sliding already looks so fast. To test this, I created a macro that performs hop slide inputs with a fixed delay, letting me test everything precisely. Here are 2 examples, one is the fastest possible hop slide and the other is the slowest one that barely holds together. In slow motion you can see that Crash is already crouching before he spins. It looks so weird and I can't believe it still works. It also performs really poorly. It loses 50 frames, almost a full second in this 10-second clip. That might not seem huge, but over a longer period the time loss stacks up quickly. That said, it's not something full game runners need to worry about. A typical average hop slide is easily good enough and only loses around 12 frames to the fastest version. But for time trials this matters a lot. I then went even deeper to optimize the movement further and squeeze out every last frame possible in time trials. I got this idea from the testing I did for the beginner hop slide tutorial, where I learned that the timing window for hop sliding is 7 frames. In the community there has been a rumor that spinning animation is faster than slide animation, and I wanted to test this by altering the time you spend in a spin or slide animation. My goal was to find out whether changing the hop slide rhythm would let me stay longer in the spinning animation and make me go faster, even if it meant not pressing the buttons as quickly as possible. I tested all the possible working combinations and these are the results. Except then I remembered that you could buffer your slide input. I checked the results again and noticed that if we count the frames from the moment Crash starts slide animation to the moment he spins, there wasn't any difference between all the variations I created. I accidentally made the same hop slide variation multiple times using different values. So all this testing was for nothing and the difference just came from the inputs not lining up perfectly because there is no way to control all the variables. What a great way to spend your time. Naturally, the next step was to spend even more time testing. After measuring how far Crash travels each frame during a hop slide, I finally noticed something. The spin animation is always exactly 31 frames long. This means the slide input must always be buffered before the spin animation ends. Originally, the inconsistencies in slide buffering caused a huge problem for me because there is no way to know where within the 7 frame window the slide input actually lands. As a result, the spin would almost always come out later than the optimal frame when using any kind of rhythm. It finally clicked when Clutching pointed out that we should only be analyzing the inputs in the context of the hopslide length, which is 40 frames for a perfect hopslide. If we look at the problem backwards, we see that if spin is pressed on the first possible frame, it doesn't matter where within the 7 frame window the slide is input, as long as it lands somewhere inside it. On a larger scale, if we always press spin on the earliest possible frame, we will always achieve the fastest hopslide speed. Since a perfect hopslide lasts 40 frames, we need to press spin every 41 frames. This means that consistent spin timing is the only thing that actually matters, as long as the slide input falls somewhere inside the acceptable window. For this reason, we should focus solely on the spin inputs and their timing. This changes things quite a bit, because now the hopslide rhythm is based only on spin inputs. However, this can be confusing since you still need to press slide between the audio cues, and that can cause you to mistime slides. To address that, here is an alternative rhythm that spreads the inputs as evenly as possible while still maintaining the 41 frame gap between spin inputs. Contrary to what I previously believed, we can include slides in the rhythm as long as the spacing between spin inputs always remains 41 frames. To answer the theory that the spin animation is faster, the community was partly right. Based on a perfect hopslide, spending as much time as possible in the spin animation is indeed optimal, and in that sense the theory was correct. But if we look at this graph, we can see that in the case of the slowest possible hopslide, the spin animation actually moves much slower than the slide animation. However, this is splitting hairs and irrelevant in practice. Listening to slide and spin sounds can also help with the hopslide rhythm. I often use this when adjusting spacing for specific tricks, such as hole skips, although it's not a perfect solution for maximizing hopslide speed. Still, here are the sound cues for a perfect hopslide if anyone wants to try them. If you have ideas for future tests or things I might have missed, feel free to leave a comment. I may add some smaller experiments later and pin them to this video. Thanks for watching.